The Oklahoma City Thunder were just one game away from the playoffs. They have an All-NBA caliber leader, one of the best passers in the league, ascending up the point guard ranks, a top 3 rookie this season. Their second overall pick in the draft hasn't even played yet, and they still have a million first-round picks heading their way. They are coming for your favorite team, but it wasn't supposed to be like this at all. The Thunder didn't even see a rebuild coming. In 2019, they're trying to compete with PG and Westbrook, but when Kawhi decides to join the Clippers, he has one request: get me Paul George. They couldn't risk losing him, and they gave up the biggest trade package we have ever seen. This put the Thunder in a weird place, and with his blessing, moved on from Russell Westbrook, sending him to the Rockets. Now, through all these trades, similar to what we saw from the Jazz to start this year, they were much better than anticipated. They even made the playoffs. That was not the plan. So they trade Chris Paul, Kelly Oubre, Steven Adams, Dennis Schroeder. Okay, we're finally in a rebuild. This is where things get interesting. See, there's a pretty big problem that arises when you have this many draft picks. You only have 15 spots on your roster. Seeing this, Sam Presti, the GM of the Thunder, developed a fascinating strategy: draft busts. A strategy that was already starting to happen before Paul George was even traded. Sam Presti is quite possibly the most successful draft decision maker of all time. 3 MVPs in 3 years to go along with one of the most consistent hit rates since. Now, drafting busts sounds like a questionable strategy doomed to fail for obvious reasons. Why would the best drafter in the world want to draft players that fail? Well, clarity. See, after the departure of Kevin Durant, Presti's strategy was already shifting. Instead of drafting Andre Roberson, Steven Adams, Cameron Payne, selections to round out the roster around their star duo, he went in favor of high upside, low floor, commonly referred to as boom or bust. The first evidence of this is Terrence Ferguson in 2017, someone that was a freak athlete, great physical profile, a top-ranked high school recruit, but decided to go play in Australia, something we see quite frequently nowadays, but this was an extremely unique path in 2017. He didn't do all that great there. His stock tanked and Presti took the gamble at 21. The next first round selection would happen just weeks before the Paul George trade. This time it was Darius Bazley, again, a freak athlete, amazing physical profile, was a top-ranked high school recruit, but decides to take a different path. This one even more unique, deciding to intern at New Balance while preparing for the draft. This put his stock up in the air, something Presti was going to take advantage of with the 23rd pick. They also see a unique build in Lou Dort go undrafted and decide to take a shot. Then all the big trades happen. They're actually in a rebuild. Presti now has a real chance to put this strategy to the test, and it makes more sense than ever. See, when you're projected to make this many draft picks, you're also projected to have some serious roster turnover. You don't have all the time in the world to wait around for these guys to develop. It doesn't make sense to just kick field goals to go to overtime. Let's win it right here, right now, and score a touchdown. Yeah, you're going to end up drafting a lot of busts, but when you hit big. And it's those big hits that ultimately get you out of a rebuild. So when the 2020 draft rolls around, instead of playing it safe and going with Sadiq Bey, Josh Green, trade up to 17 and get the youngest, most raw player in the draft, 18-year-old 7-footer Pokusevski. At the top of the second round, go get the French point guard that just a year ago people thought would be a lottery pick, but still just 19 years old. In 2021, they finally get their chance at the top of the draft. They hold this 6th overall selection. Instead of going with the consensus top guy like Kuminga, or college standouts Wagner, Davion Mitchell, or James Bouknight, they surprise everyone and go with the upside of 6'9" Australian point guard Josh Giddey, someone that seemed to be a long-term project. Now at 18, they would go with 6'4" Florida shot creator Trey Mann, a selection that doesn't appear to be within this new draft philosophy, but it's still a guy whose upside they were going to be able to quickly gauge. In the second round, they double up on great physical profiles, going with JRE and Aaron Wiggins. Then we get to the most recent 2022 draft, and despite holding the 2nd overall pick, the strategy never budges. At 2, they want the highest upside possible. That's Chet Holmgren. Even when the player that was projected to be the top pick for almost the entire year, Jabari Smith, is surprisingly on the board at 2, the Thunder's focus doesn't shift. They draft Chet. This strategy couldn't have been more blatantly clear with their next few picks. They would trade up to 11, avoid the safety of guys like Agbaji, AJ Griffin, and Jalen Duren, and go with extremely raw 6'9" foreign wing, Ousmane Dieng. With the very next selection, let's take a chance on the guy from a tiny program in Santa Clara, Jalen Williams. He became the first player since Steve Nash to be drafted from that program. His level of competition has other teams looking elsewhere. Presti sees a guy that just dominated, who also happens to have a 33.5-inch standing vertical, a 3.1 sprint time, and a wingspan to height ratio of 1.12. The only other player to post those or better combine measurables is Donovan Mitchell. Then in the second round, they go with another player with the name Jalen Williams, who, surprise surprise, is 6'9" with a 7'1" wingspan. Ahead of the year, the 76ers waive Isaiah Joe, someone that just a couple years ago was one of the best three-point shooters in college basketball. Oh, and he happens to have a 6'8" wingspan. Sam Presti will take that. The Thunder have now spent 5 years shooting for the moon in the draft, prioritizing the most important foundation of a successful roster with most of those dart throws, wings, and forwards. The team didn't draft a single center until Holmgren. They didn't chase college production a single time. He was looking to draft busts, and it worked. Ferguson, Bazley, Poku, maybe Trey Mann or even Ousmane Dieng could very well be misses, but that is fine. You know that quickly, and you avoid questionable contracts. Letting guys walk or trading them for pennies on the dollar is completely fine. It's gonna have to happen with this many picks incoming. This rebuild was gonna take some time. They didn't want to feel forced to give out contracts to decent players, restricting their financial flexibility. They were going to be making more selections than anyone. All they needed were a couple of those to be the right one. Coming into the year, there was a lot of promising pieces. Things were looking up. SGA was one of the best young shooting guards. Giddey had a really promising rookie year. The undrafted free agent Lou Dort, he just averaged 17 a game and signed an extension. They were now adding a top 2 pick to this group. Exciting, but the rebuild wasn't over, especially with that second overall pick, Holmgren, going down with a season-ending foot injury before the year. Everyone's expecting the Thunder to be headed back to the top of the draft. They came to the season with a win total over-under of 23.5, tied with the Pacers and Rockets for the lowest coming into the season. There just weren't many predicting more than that, but there was something no one was factoring in. That's SGA taking the jump to an all-NBA caliber player. This year he averaged 31, 6, and 5, shooting 51% from the field and 91% from the line on 11 attempts a game. He's putting up absurd numbers and doing it with some of the best efficiency in the league. The team shooting for the moon in the draft, trying to find their star, just stumbled on it. As much as being bad would have made sense from a value perspective, with a prospect like Wembanyama at the top, they wanted to see what they had here. The rebuild was on pause. Josh Giddey's jump was bigger than expected. He had a solid rookie year, but the consensus was scoring had a ways away. He goes up to 17 points from 42% from the field to 48. Incredible jumps out of those two, but there was actually another player whose performance was the most exciting for a majority of Thunder fans. Sam Presti freaking did it. Drafting busts worked. Why would he take two players that play the exact same position with back-to-back picks in the draft? Two guys most of the country had never even heard of. This is why. Ousmane Dieng, the first of those picks, has a long way to go to reach the expectations associated with the 11th overall pick. From a production standpoint, it wasn't a great rookie season. But the kid from the small school Santa Clara that was practically unknown before the combine, yeah, he's becoming a star. He's everything you could ask for at this stage in his career. He just averaged 14 points, shooting with incredible 52, 36, 81 splits. He defends, comfortable adapting his role, flashes high volume upside, play makes. There's no getting around the fact he was one of the best rookies this season. Possibly the best, as crazy as that may seem. Yeah, there's three other rookies ahead of him in scoring. Obviously Banchero has All-NBA upside, but these three guys shot with gross efficiency this season when compared to someone like Williams. We also have to take in consideration, Williams is playing on a significantly more competitive team. He didn't even secure a starting position until halfway through December. A Rookie of the Year case can legitimately be made. Isaiah Joe, the guy they picked up after being waived by the Sixers, yeah, he's now one of the best shooters in the league, averaging 41% on 5 attempts a game. Their second round rookie, the other Jalen Williams, is a high energy defensive piece that also managed to shoot 40% from 3. The front office just wasn't ready for this kind of season. They're one of the youngest teams in the league, but managed to make the play-in, separated by just 5 games for the 4th seed in the West. It's really just a random group of players with no rotation intention behind it. The glaring thing is their lack of size. They've got this massive backcourt, but the other starters down the stretch were J-Dub Jalen Williams, Lou Dort, and the other Jalen Williams. Their bench in the first play-in game was 3 wings and Dario Saric. The group was built to be versatile, and it is. But Lou Dort, 6'4", Jalen Williams, 6'5", as your starting forwards in a play-in game isn't necessarily ideal. It's gonna have to be addressed this offseason. Oh wait, Chet Holmgren, the second overall pick in the draft, is joining this group next season. A 7'1" big that averaged 4 blocks a game, was one of the best defenders in college basketball, while also shooting 39% from 3. Someone that was pretty limited offensively, playing for a top program in Gonzaga, but then goes to the Summer League, is finally unleashed, and he's out here hitting step-back threes, taking the ball up the court, all while breaking the Summer League record for blocks in a game. If he is healthy, he projects to be a serious problem. Even with how this roster is right now, he can slot into 5, but his versatility allows him to put bigger and bigger lineups out there if needed. Oh, And the entire roster is under contract, aside from Dario Saric, Poku, and Lindy Waters, till 2025. Absolutely insane considering they're going to have between $28 and $35 million in cap space this summer. It's not a great free agency class, but they could still go after guys like Porzingis, Draymond, Jeremy Grant, but they don't have to rush anything. They're going to be in the same exact position next offseason. I think we'll likely just see them be patient, sign a veteran point and a big body with how the 2024 class is shaping up. Oh, I forgot to mention, they have the 12th pick in the lottery for the upcoming draft. They have 4 first rounders next year, 4 the next, 3 the next, 2 the next, and the rest of their own past that. This team would have to try to fail at this point. They can do quite literally anything they want. The rebuild is gone, over, done with. They're coming for your favorite team. They could keep shooting for the moon in the draft, but it is going to be tougher to find spots within this rotation. They could be the next team to make a blockbuster trade, a trade they could pull off while barely losing anything notable from a player asset standpoint. An incredible situation, and you wouldn't rather have anyone else making the roster calls. Presti's going to make the right decisions, but I do think there's a perfect scenario staring them in the face. If they end up staying put at 12, they cash in a bunch of these picks and go up as high as possible. I don't think number 1's an option, as you just really can't put a price on that pick with Wembanyama associated, but going up and taking a chance on a Thompson twin or Brandon Miller makes a ton of sense. Why? The power of the rookie contract. They're gonna have to unload some of these picks at some point. They do that right now and grab an elite prospect, and in the process, maintain their incredible financial situation for at least a year before all these young pieces need extensions. I just hope the Thunder's ownership is ready for the absurd luxury tax bill that's inevitably on the horizon. Presti turned Ibaka, who he drafted, into Sabonis and Oladipo, traded them for Paul George, and then traded PG for a package that is the foundation of this crazy future ahead. At the same time, he is revolutionizing drafting strategy.
You're a wizard. Sound Presti.